Welcome back. Next, I'd like to introduce a man who doesn't really need any introduction, but this is Hugh Jones, who's the Managing Director for the Carbon Trust. He's responsible for our advisory business, providing strategic climate change consulting to many businesses and organisations. Hugh, welcome. Good to see you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ralph, and good morning, everybody. And it's really great to see you all on here. And I'm really just here to sum up the session as we move to a close. But I thought it was a fantastic set of sessions, and we really did have a great range of speakers to whom I think we should all be very grateful. The leading takeaway that I took from this was that Route to Net Zero is partly about the here and now, but it's also partly and largely about the future. And it was really encouraging to see that 3/4 of you, judging by the poll, are already on that route to net zero. But it was also very much the case that it's going to get tougher as we go on this journey together. And we saw from all of the speakers actually that it's going to require not just adherence to the route that many of you are on, but also really transformative thinking, collaboration, innovation to lead us to the right solutions. And I think where Carbon Trust has been and continues to be, and will be able to help you with, is that we're able to perhaps marry that practical approach, which we saw from those great corporate speakers today, with the strategic thinking that is required for tomorrow. I think that's really, really important. Just reviewing what we saw today, Ilias from DG Connect, he really set the tone, I think, at the beginning with that broader sweep. And he really talked about the need for system change above anything else. Obviously, from his point of view, with a digitalization context, but of course, digital is going to be at the heart of so much transformation. It's a totally sort of valid context to bring. And one of the things that Ilias said that really, I think, struck myself and many of us was, there is this need to move right across the board to service-led rather than quantity-based models, business models. He gave a great example in agriculture of how it's going to be far better to be judged on servicing and maintaining the health of a hectare rather than on how much fertilizer and pesticide product you can sell into that hectare. And I think that's a unifying thought, because whatever business you're in, even whatever the size of your company, you are going to be living in a world where that sort of business model is going to be necessary. So it's something, whatever your emissions, whatever your own organization's route to net zero, that is going to be a theme which will affect us all. Ilias also talked specifically about the European Green Digital Coalition that we're proud to be working with, and really interestingly, the Digital Product Passport, which is something I think you can all look into, and is an approach for more, if you like, supply chain, value chain information. And that is a theme, and probably the main theme that actually came out in the latter two sessions. We had some great input from 4 corporates. So Simon at Carlsberg, we had Geraldine at Grundfos, Mia at Ørsted, and Cordula at BASF. And they all, although the two sessions were themed slightly differently, they all actually showed that their organizations are looking at this both from the here and now, but also taking an increasingly strategic view. We heard about the reason for doing net zero, for getting on the path, and ultimately being a viable business in a climate constrained world, being resilient and realizing the opportunities and managing the risks of green transition. All of those elements came out. We had some really practical advice on how to do it, top tips, etc. We heard some quite technical input on the need for primary data. We heard some great stuff from BASF on the biogenic uptake and the really detailed way that they've gone about and continue to go about footprinting and comparing to the competition. We heard about the detail on packaging and detail on or moving into regenerative agriculture and all the measurement that will require from Carlsberg. And we heard some really similarly in-depth views from Geraldine at Grundfos about how they've really given their carbon accounting the same sort of level of scrutiny as organizations would traditionally give financial accounting. So it's a really, really important. They all talked about the value chain. And it was great to hear from Mia at Ørsted in some depth about how they are changing the conversation with their customers as well as the conversation with their suppliers in order to really communicate the benefits and indeed the costs of sustainability and to make it happen along the value chain. And we heard a similar story from all of them. And then of course we heard from Jay representing RISE, but also Mission Innovation. And I think some really interesting perspectives there on the need to sort of move away from just looking at static systems in a static way and looking at sort of human needs driven approaches, and really looking at disruptive technologies and disruptive approaches, which one of the areas that we've been involved with Jay has been around the measurement of avoided emissions. That is only one part of it, but it's broadening the innovation approach to understanding what is going to work and what is going to fit together in the transformed economy of the future. So all in all, I would just like to say on behalf of the Carbon Trust, a big thank you to all of those speakers. Thank you, of course, to Pauline and to Veronica for leading the sessions, and to all of the home team for your great support in this event, and of course to all of the audience for being here. You should now see, or very shortly see, a further and final poll. This one is about next steps. And if you could answer that one, we can then hand over to Ralph, who is going to close the session, and hopefully we'll have the results of the poll. So from me, on behalf of the Carbon Trust, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Hugh. It's good to see you, and thank you for the great summary of today's events. I know there have been hundreds of people watching. Just whilst we look at these poll results, I thought I'd keep you on the screen just so you can see what they are. So if you bring up the poll results, please. So the question was, after today's event, what are the next steps you are planning to move your business further towards net zero? And what's interesting there is the highest result is for create a detailed transition plan, which I think was the third in the list, wasn't it, in terms of your journey? Is that what you were expecting?
Well, yeah, I think it's a reasonably evenly split series of or set of answers there, Ralph, and I think that partly reflects where organizations perceive themselves, in terms of what they've actually done so far on net zero. I think what's also interesting about a plan, everyone needs a plan, but actually we're thinking here in at least two horizons. We're thinking the next few years, and what are those tangible and implementable measures organizations can take now with their suppliers, even with their customers, and certainly internally. But then we're thinking about the so-called post-transition, and there we're into the realms of the unknown. And as a number of the speakers said earlier, it's not wrong to not know stuff. There is stuff we all don't know, and we will all make some mistakes. But it's really important now to be setting the tone for systems thinking about the future and for innovation. So in that answer about the transition plan, I think it contains not just what we do today, but it contains how do we set ourselves up for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that progresses, and also the innovation that happens. Well, Hugh, Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's taken part in today's sessions. All that remains for me is to close the event. I just remind you that if you want to find out more about the Carbon Trust, you can head to our website, which is carbontrust.com. You'll also find a newsletter on there under News and Insights. That's a great way of staying in touch with all of the initiatives. And you could see today that there are a huge amount of partner organizations that we work with, other certification bodies and systems and processes that we're helping people put into place. So please check out the website, make sure that you're subscribed to the newsletter. And if you want to attend any of the other events that are in this series, you'll find them on the website as well. This is actually the first one, at least outside of China, but there are more this week and also in a couple of weeks' time. So that's all from me. We'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.